being asked or when policy is being implemented in general. But I think that at this point, this issue is not on the agenda of Parliament.
Let's talk about a project that concerns both Turkey and Bulgaria and actually the rest of Europe, probably Nabucco. I was just reading in the news that our Turkish Energy Minister Taner Yıldız, when he was in Finland, he made an announcement saying that Nabucco would become operational in 2017. And a lot of people were wondering whether or not this actually meant that there is going to be a delay in the project because it was initially announced as 2015. But the European Union Commissioner had also announced the date of 2018, which was then corrected as it will become fully operational by 2018. There are now quite a few developments with the groundbreaking, hopefully agreements between Azerbaijan and the Nabucco project for the supply of gas, natural gas, and also maybe there is hope that Turkmenistan might be interested. What do you think the chances are of the project being realized? Because they actually, I believe, need 10 to 18 billion cubic meters of natural gas commitments as supply in order to start financing the project.
Well, I think that this is a very important project for not just for Europe as a whole, but for Bulgaria in particular. And this is why our government has been very keen to push Nabucco as much as we can. I myself have visited at least once the Nabucco consortium in Vienna to find out personally the progress that they've achieved. We've pushed through Parliament the legislation that needs to be put in place to allow for Nabucco to be processed. In fact, there are the only two countries that have fully paved the way for Nabucco are Austria and Bulgaria. With the other countries, there's still things that are outstanding and need to be decided. I wouldn't get into a betting match what would be the year that the project becomes operational. I think that the important point right now is to make sure that all countries can come together and secure the financing for the project so that we can proceed to secure the supply side of the oil or of the gas contracts that need to be put in place. And obviously Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan are important suppliers. I think that Iraq is a very important opportunity. We've had discussions with the government in Iraq and with various other partners about how to link, whether it's northern Iraq or whether it's central Iraq, supplies to the future of Nabucco, as well as the possibility of linking into through Syria into the Arab network that exists and that is being built. So this is a key project. What we need to do now is, in order to secure the financing, is to also be quite open about how important this project is at a European level. And this is why our Prime Minister on a number of occasions has called for securing a special exemption for the financing of Nabucco to make sure that we can build it more quickly. And indeed, on Friday at the next session of the European Council, the whole discussion will be devoted to energy. And both Nabucco, strategic pipelines that are important for our supplies, the liberalization of the European gas and electricity market, how we proceed with connecting our systems so that they become more interoperational. All of these issues will be discussed at the top level of the European Union literally in a couple of days. I hope that one of the messages that will come out of that meeting, at least this is what we will insist, and we have argued very strongly, is that those projects that are part of the southern corridor, southern energy corridor of Europe, should be prioritized, because they increase our energy independence, they increase our security, and they provide, most importantly, access to new resources which until now have not been used to the full extent for Europe.
Well, actually, Bulgaria is also involved with South Stream, and a lot of people think that it's actually a competitor of Nabucco, and find it interesting that Bulgaria is interested, is part of these both projects. This is normally the point of view of the Turkish people. And now that we're sitting together, I would really like to hear why the Bulgarians...
We don't see them as competitors, because for us, we have two strategically important goals. One is to make sure that we have security for our energy supplies. We had a very unfortunate experience a few years back when the tap was literally closed off, and because we currently still continue to rely on one pipeline from one supplier, ended up having problems in the middle of the winter. So we need security. Security means two things. You have to have different routes for receiving your supplies, and you have to have different suppliers. You mean effectively to diversify. So for us, South Stream is a project that ensures that there are different routes through which we can get our traditional supplies, and Nabucco ensures that we have alternative suppliers that provide gas for our energy. And this is part of our overall national energy strategy, which looks at security and diversification. It looks at connecting our networks. One of the most important projects that we have currently on the table is the interconnector between the Bulgarian gas system and Greece and the Bulgarian gas system in Turkey, as well as obviously with our other neighbors, expanding our storage facilities so that if there's a crisis we have more stored in order to ensure uninterrupted supply, and obviously accessing new sources of energy, whether this is sort of more traditional at this point, gas, oil, liquefied gas, or going forward with an extensive project to drill for shelf gas in the Black Sea. So that this is a whole range of priorities which we need to address, but they all end up in two things. One is security of supply, and the other one is diversification.
Liderler ve kararlara kısa bir ara veriyoruz. Liderler ve Kararlar programına kaldığımız yerden devam ediyoruz. Bulgaristan Dışişleri Bakanı Mladenov şimdi de Orta Doğu'daki süreci soracağız. Let's move down to the south. Let's talk about what's happening in North Africa and the Middle East, because everybody is wondering what's happening. Is it going to be a domino effect? You know, what happened in Tunisia was unexpected, but now with and people in violent clashes between there were actually the first time last night, I believe, violent clashes between pro-government and anti-government forces, and now today Yemen. What's next? What do you think is going to happen? Is Islamic fanaticism going to take over the Middle East, as some of the people are claiming that it would?
Let me first address Egypt, because I think it is extremely unfortunate and terrible that we have had people being killed and injured in these clashes. I think all of us would welcome very much that the Egyptian army takes up its role to secure the situation and to make sure that civilians feel safe to return back to their homes, and to very quickly embark on a transition process that would include more participation of people in government. I think this is the first thing that needs to be stressed at this point. The broader question of what is happening in the Middle East, I think we cannot answer at this point. I think the question today is, are we facing the biggest reformation of the Middle East? Are we going to see societies and countries reformed in a way that people will have a stronger stake in their own government. The signals that there's been a problem have been around for a long time. In many countries you have had a quickly rising young population with rapidly rising unemployment among the young, with a very limited tax base in many countries, and if people do not pay taxes to support their government, this creates for a detachment which is not good. And the lack of opportunities has always bred more radicalism. In our policy towards the Middle East, we need to put down some very important pillars, particularly now. And I've called for this in the European Union in our discussions very, very strongly. First, we need to say that governments need to become more participatory. This is a condition that must be accepted by all. People need to feel more represented. They need to be more involved in their own government. Now, I'm not going to tell each country how to do that, but I think the answer is pretty obvious. Secondly, we need to see more observance of human rights and media freedom and civil society. I think this is very, very important for each and every country. Thirdly, we need to see more access to development and to economic opportunity. Again, very important for every country. And last but not least, we must be very clear that governments must remain secular and not religious-based. And as somebody who comes from Bulgaria, a country that has it has a Christian majority, but it has its own Muslim minority, I think we appreciate very much that the